Hello everybody, this is Hammer Striker here. Today I've got the Glock 41 Gen 4 MOS sitting here. Please don't forget to check out our website. Go to our affiliates page. You'll find discount codes for things like Mantis Axe and Core belts. Link to that cool little bore light that we use for lighting up the barrels. Use those links. It will often save you money, never will cost you any additional money, and helps the channel. Thank you. This is the largest 45 caliber Glock that's available. It's not necessarily the largest Glock. The 40 and the 17L are the largest overall, but this is the biggest of the 45s, and this is more recent in that lineup. It is a Gen 4. I right now don't have any official Gen 5s in the 40 series, 41, 40, etc., etc. They're all Gen 4s. Even the 45, which has a lot of characteristics of the Gen 5s, is officially unlabeled. It doesn't have the Gen 5 logo on it. I'm sure that'll change over time. But it being a Gen 4, it has all the normal characteristics of a Gen 4 you're used to. It does have the finger grooves. It does have the replaceable back straps, so the frame itself is effectively one of your back straps. And then it comes with two of these additional back straps that have an additional beaver tail on them. So you get a total of 3 different combinations, the frame alone or any one of these 2 back straps. And they would sit kind of like this. I can get it on there. They kind of sit kind of like that. And there's a different pin that comes with it, a longer pin that comes with it if you actually have one of these back straps in place. These actually work quite well. Additionally, because it is the MOS and it has the ability to use any of the common popular optics, it comes with all the plates. So unlike some of the guns that have come out recently where you have to buy plates and wait for them to show up, Glock comes with everything you need. It also comes with 3 of these 13-round magazines right with it, and it can take the magazines from the Chris Vector. Now this particular one is a 25 round, but they are 26 round, I'm sorry, it's a 26 round, but they do go up higher than that, and it'll take any of those magazines from the Chris Vector, the 45 Glock Mag Chris Vector. So you've got some flexibility in magazines. So I mentioned that the thing is big, so let's talk about the dimensions a little bit. It's 8.78 inches front to back. With the flush magazine, it is 5.47 inches tall, and it is 1.34 inches thick. Now one thing you're going to notice is the sight looks a little bit weird. This particular version has a fully adjustable height and windage adjustable rear sight. You can see the adjustment screws are here to adjust it, and it came with that. And of course it has the typical white dot front sight. So effectively you got the standard Glock U-dot sights, but the rear one is fully adjustable, on top of the fact that you can put the optic of your choice on it. Interesting combination. It's often the ones that have the MOS capability assume you're going to put an optic on it, and they really don't put a great sight on the rear. In this case, Glock puts the best sight they offer as well as the optics capability. This has all the safeties you're used to with a Glock. It has the inertial toggle on the trigger, it has the internal drop safety and striker block mechanisms. So this is as drop safe as any Glock that you're used to. The magazine release is reversible, given that it is a Gen 4. It's the only ambi feature on there, and it's not truly ambi, it's reversible, so you have to choose which side it's on. And it has a single slot Picatinny rail, which is typical of Glock, and not a problem because all the aftermarket manufacturers have long since adapted to that. On this particular one, there's plenty of real estate. They could have put additional slots on it, but they're going to be Glock, and one's what you get, and one's all they think you need, which has kind of been made true over the years. The trigger on this, so let's get rid of this magazine. The trigger on this is standard Glock, minimal take-up, little pull through the wall, reasonably short reset, and you're right on the wall and break. The trigger on this, if you're used to a Glock, it's a standard Glock trigger. You're going to be used to this trigger immediately. It's one of the things that is nice about Glock is that you have pretty good consistency through the entire line. So if you're hunting with one, competing with another, concealed carrying another, they all work basically the same, and that does give you some flexibility. And it weighs 26.63 ounces with an empty mag. These have an MSRP of around $750, so they're not super expensive, but they're not cheap either. About $200 more than like a standard Glock, regular size Glock without the MOS capability. Disassembly on a Glock is fairly easy. Once you've pulled the trigger, you just kind of grab the slide and give it a little squeeze so it takes off pressure. And of course this one being chambered in 45 ACP. Frame, pretty much what you're used to. And what you're going to find is that the frame is basically the same size as a Glock 21 frame. The additional length is in the slide, not in the frame. But you've got decent rails at the front, decent rails at the back, fire control group, locking block, and here's the spur for the drop safety. And of course, Glocks have well proven over the years to be very drop safe. One interesting thing you'll see is that in the longer slide Glocks, they have this section here. This hole is to access the screw for the front sight. And unlike most guns where the end of the guide rod is visible through the front, the guide rod ends here. There's a actual stop for it here. So you can use the same basic size guide rod as the 21 and the other shorter slide, regular size slide guns. Here's the barrel. 5.31 inch, and because it's a Glock, it does have the polygonal rifling that you've become used to in Glocks. Well machined, nicely done. The Glock does a good job with their barrels. Get a little bit of light in there. And this is not a marksman because it's not a Gen 5. And it has a bit of a shorter, kind of a wide feed ramp. Of course, 45 ACP is a bit fatter of a bullet, so you're going to have a slightly different profile here than you're used to with 9mm. Overall, it's a well-done barrel. Now, when I get to the slide, now you can see the hole, and if you get the light in it, there's the screw for the front sight. So again, that's why that hole's there. Any of the longer slide ones, they'll have that, the competition ones, the 40, etc. And you can see the cutout here, which is where the guide rod sits. So that's one of the differences with these longer slide versions. If I get the camera to focus on it, you kind of see that ridge right there. And of course you have the drop safety plunger. It's a round plunger because it's a Gen 4, and a couple lightening cuts to lighten up the slide a little bit because there is additional metal being a long slide. They did choose not to put the oval cutout that they put on, for example, the 9mm competition guns and things like that. And I think 45 has enough push to work its way through without needing all that additional lightening. But they did do a few cuts here. And it is a little bit thinner this way, width-wise, than the Glock 21 slide. I also would cut a little bit of weight off it, so the combination of those two was enough weight off it to make it function reliably. Reassembly is relatively easy. Slide the long barrel back in. It does have a little bit of a tendency to want to hang up when you're putting it in because it is so long. Drop the guide rod in place, make sure it's centered. Make sure it's centered left or right. And then just slide it back onto the frame. And you're back in business. So they're an easy gun to live with, and being larger doesn't really change that. Overall, it's a nice gun. It's easy to shoot well. Of course, once you put the optic gear choice on, it'll get even easier to shoot well. And I'm going to kind of show a comparison, just a quick comparison to a Glock 21, which was the prior largest available 45 ACP Glock. And you can see the difference. You can see that the frame is almost identical. They end at the same point. You have the additional length is in the slide. But one interesting thing is the height is a little bit different of the grip. It's just a hair, but the newer one is just a hair shorter. So the 41 is here, the grip is just a hair shorter. Not much, just fractions of an inch. Not enough that's going to make a difference, especially with both guns are a full 3-finger grip and they're a full-size grip. And while I've got the two of them sitting here, see if I can line them up, you can kind of get an idea of the difference of the slides. It's kind of visible. If you go to the front, get away from the MOS part, you'll see that this is the 21 that I'm touching right now, is definitely a wider slide than the 41. So that kind of gives you a little bit of view of that, which is, again, a little bit of a weight reduction. The only thing I found with this is the shape of this U-dot's just a little different on this adjustable sight than the stock one. And it's a little bit elevated off the back of the gun. It threw me off just a hair, so I had to adapt to the sight a little bit because I'm so used to Glock U-dot sights, which is, this one here, the standard U-dot sight, that this did throw me off a hair. Not for long. It was one of those, when I initially picked it up, I wasn't centering right. I was hitting a little bit different than I wanted to. kind of adapted to it quickly, and from there it was as easy to use as any other. So it's been reliable, easy to live with, easy to maintain. Overall, it would be a good choice, especially if you're wanting a great big 45. This thing's actually bigger than a full-size 1911 when it comes to the length. Beyond that, if you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe, click that bell to be notified if you do. Check us out on Facebook, Patreon, Instagram, Twitter, Getter, Rumble, pretty much everywhere. And thank you.